Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about whether doing heads and cam on a Corvette is worth it. Let's start off with the basics. We're going to be focusing on the LT1, the LS3s, and the LS7s. We don't need to focus on the LS9 or LT4 or even LT5 for that matter, as they already come supercharged to begin with. And with that being said, on the naturally aspirated Corvettes, there are two routes one should take. The easiest route to get crazy power is boost. That is the easiest method, the cheapest method, and honestly the quickest method. It has the quickest turnaround. Keeping the motor sealed and just slapping on a supercharger, whether that is a twin screw or a pro charger style charger. You could go through the turbo route, twins or single, but that is a lot more expensive than just pro charging or supercharging it. And it is the easiest and quickest method to get crazy amounts of horsepower. As far as the LT1, I know that on my dyno that is very conservative. They like to keep it underneath 700 horsepower and 700 torque, approximately 650 wheel, 650 torque, and that is like the sweet spot of basically maxing out your stock pistons, rods. The crank's actually pretty sturdy. It would just really be the pistons and rods. So I just want to make that super clear. If your Corvette already comes with a supercharger and you're looking to get maximum power apart from the basic bolt-ons, and upgrading that supercharger and fueling is the way. Adding a head or aftermarket head, supporting your heads, or adding a more aggressive camshaft is going to completely change the characteristics of your car, and we're going to cover how they change. But if you're just looking for maximum gains with the least amount of money, and like I said, slap on some boost, and which is why the LS9, the LT4, and the LT5, honestly, if you feel like you've already reached the boring limit and you want more power, I wouldn't even bother with heads and cam unless I'm going to push over 1,000 wheel. I believe the sweet spot will be 800 to 900 wheel, and even 900 is when things start breaking. So I would look at 800 as the jack of all trades, where you're still able to drive that vehicle basically every day and not everything is going to be snapping. Past 900 or 1,000, no matter if you built everything, the motor, the trans, the drivetrain, the torque tube, all that, things are going to snap. So going back to heads and cams on naturally aspirated motors, you have to understand what you're doing. Heads, I would say, are the mod that, it's actually a pretty good mod whether you go boost or not. And aftermarket heads will yield great power. They'll be more reliable, and for sure on the LS7s, yes, on the LS7s, you for sure want to get rid of any potential valve dropping issues on the stock heads. So upgrading your heads, that is a route that I think will be a good start. A lot of people upgrade their heads porting it, and porting, at least on the LT1 heads, they're not going to gain that much, and honestly, if it's a multi-$1,000 job, I would skip that entirely. They're most likely going to get milled during the camming process, but porting them, it can be very costly. The only reason I ended up porting mine were because the whole engine was disassembled, so porting the heads at that point was just $1,000 versus $2,000 plus if I just went into the shop and they didn't have my motor already disassembled. So I do highly recommend heads, and it depends how big your budget is. If you have a big budget, I would buy aftermarket heads, the ones that flow the most air. Porting your stock LS3 heads, it's basically the same as the LT1. They're already so good from factory. The gains, there's definitely going to be there a couple of horsepower, maybe 10 if you're lucky, 10, 15. but you're gonna gain basically everywhere, not just top RPM. So it is an okay mod, but if the budget is right, buy aftermarket heads. I implore that, as a matter of fact. LS7 heads flow so well. So porting them just already complements how well those heads flow. And let's talk about camming now. I think it's time to talk about camming. Infamous sounds you hear at a red light and the car shaking like a proper race car. Sounds that the Coyote motors do not make even when they add cams to their car. As a matter of fact, they emulate our our sound via tuning. They try to emulate us. They have ghost cam tunes. That's how much they wish they could fucking sound like us. Camming, again, you have to be very conscious about what you're doing to your car. This is no longer a sealed motor kind of project. It is expensive, and you kind of have to really like naturally aspirated motors to go down this route. So camming, if you have an automatic transmission, just know the more aggressive the cam, the more likely you're going to need a stall converter to even drive the car. And stall converters, fuck dude, they completely change how the car drives, and it's another mod that's very expensive. So just be wary if you're an auto that if you go above stage 2, you're most likely going to need a stall converter, unless you want the car driving like shit at low RPMs. If you're manual transmission, you're golden. Unless you're the LS3 guys, you may need a clutch upgrade depending how much power you gain. LT1 guys, you're straight. You do not need to upgrade your clutch, no matter how aggressive that cam is. I did end up going with the stage 4 cam. The specs I'll include in the description below. It was definitely not the most aggressive cam in the world, but it was far more aggressive than a stage 1. But it also had some drivability in there. Again, once you cam your vehicle, you're basically taking all your low end power and shifting it up top. So if you gun it around 2,000, 3,000 RPM, it's going to feel extremely lackluster to how it did before, because you shifted all your power up top for high, medium, and high RPM rev range. So again, that's a huge thing you need to take into consideration. If you like how torquey your car is and how drivable it is at low RPM, well, just know that when you add an aggressive cam, you're trading that low end power for high end power. And you do make power all around. You have amazing sounds. But now, you know, you upgraded your valve train system. You probably rev higher, at least 7 grand or more. And it feels amazing to drive a car like that. It breaks tons of necks. In this video, you'll see people literally breaking their necks at that setup. And on this video, my car was just a full bolt-on 93 cam only car. It was before the 427 we would go with. And when I made the review about the 427 stroker or 416 stroker, I urge y'all to know that it complements a cam like no other. Because now that you cammed your car so aggressively, low end feels so weak. So to get some of that top end, to get some of that low and medium end back, stroking the car complements the cam like no other. It makes it feel like you didn't even cam it, except every single rev range you just gain so much power. So I would say if you do end up camming it, there's no reason why you shouldn't stroke it, unless money's tight. But again, you chose the more expensive path. If you wanted the quickest path, you should have just boosted it. And if you wanted to make 800 wheel, literally some drop-in pistons and rods, and you could have done that with enough fueling on most superchargers. So again, if you're taking this route, it's because you really appreciate naturally aspirated motors like I do. But just know, money is going to be expensive, and cam isn't going to solve everything. Nowadays, cars are so fast. They are so fucking fast. This thing made 580 wheel horsepower on a dyno that reads LT1s at 370, 380. So if you're an LS3 guy, you're nowhere near those numbers. So just be very conscious about the route you're picking, right? And ironically enough, boost and all that isn't necessarily less reliable than an aggressive cam setup. So Just know that it isn't what you think it is. So my overall review is, if you love naturally aspirated motors, you should absolutely cam it. You should absolutely do some sort of head porting or aftermarket heads, preferably. And I highly recommend y'all stroke your car if you cam it. It'll wake up the low and mid and complement the high even more. After stroking it, it was exactly how I wish the cam would perform. And so that is my thoughts. Do it, ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't a fan of boost. But just know boost is the quickest and easiest method, but camming to me is more rewarding. The car is so perfectly balanced, 50-50 weight distribution. NA is just so fucking nice on this car. Such a driver's car. So I'd say do it. Just be aware if you're on auto and be aware of the repercussions that may come from camming. This has been your host with the most, signing out.